Hello, this is Rob Mazak, and I'd like to take a moment to welcome you to the Life by Mazak podcast channel. Here on this channel, anything is possible. Any subject will and usually is discussed, and there's no telling how this message will unfold as we work through an idea, through an experience, or through a thought. These subjects come from the vast amount of information and experience through spirit, through life lessons, and from working with a lot of other people. Scripts are never used on this channel, and the message simply unfolds as the subject is discussed. Follow along and see where it leads us, or more specifically, where it leads me. These podcasts are produced in the hopes of helping others to benefit, to grow, and to excel in their own human experience. At Life by Mazak, we work towards helping you achieve wellness for your mind, your body, and your soul using many specialized services. Services that include psychic medium and tarot readings, quantum healing hypnosis, past life regression, intuitive Reiki healing, life coaching, and many other services. If you enjoyed this podcast, please click the like button and share this with others. Our goal is to reach as many people as we can with the knowledge that is shared on this podcast channel. Hi, everyone. I wanted to talk a little bit tonight about a different topic that I think might be on a lot of people's minds. Once I start talking about it, you're probably going to be like, oh yeah, it definitely has been on my mind. But the thoughts leading up to this particular podcast or this topic kind of started in a strange way. And if you've listened to my podcast at all, you will know that I don't really believe in coincidence. Definitely synchronicity is happening here with all the messages that I'm getting and the stories I'm putting out on these podcasts. They're all linking together, and it's like this huge trail of breadcrumbs. And it just blows my mind all the time when I look at this. I don't think anything is by accident at all. So I had done a podcast a few days back about the subject of suicide, which of course is a very tough topic to talk about, even if you don't have those type of ideas or never have. But I have had a lot of people in my life that have had those ideas, and some that have taken that advantage of those ideas. And recently, it seems, after that podcast, one of my relatives is really struggling with that, it seems. It's not any real direct message about that. But if you look at signs and things like that and some of the actions and the way things are going, well, it's not hard to put 2 and 2 together to get 4. The other thing that was interesting is as I was doing a podcast last night after my brother called me about black being every color that there is, you can go back and listen to that. I had used an example of a random number, an angel number, to go look up as an example in my podcast. And as I was talking to the person who called me about this particular issue that I first talked about here in this podcast, all of a sudden decided, maybe that number that I randomly said or mentioned in the podcast is actually something I need to pay attention to. And so I did, and it was the angel number 4273. Angel number 4273 is a very interesting number. It really speaks to some things that are kind of in line with person that may be struggling. Relates to grief, sadness, and frustration. It's very, very interesting and in quite alignment with what might be going on. We all hope and pray that these things don't happen to people, but obviously, we don't control people, and people are going to do what they do. I'm not trying to sound crass, but we have to take care of ourselves, and we have to understand ourselves, and we can do our best to help people, but people make their own decisions and their own choices. As I was going to sleep last night, I really didn't have a really good sleep as you would call sleep. I know what good sleep is, and that was not it. It's like I woke up in the morning and my first thought was, sleep has escaped me. And it was very much of a struggle to feel like I was rested today, very, very tired. I felt like I was getting a lot of downloaded messages as I was sleeping. I mean, I remember feeling like I was being spoken to all night, not spoken to out loud, but I hear it with my ears. I think you know what I'm saying, that it's a message coming through as thoughts or ideas and pictures and things like that. You know, the voices that you recognize as your spirit guide or guides. And that is what was happening. And I don't remember a lot of it, but I do feel like I was being embedded with a lot of interesting ideas and thoughts and things that will come to light at some point. But there was one avenue or aspect or message that was very, very clear. Because this particular relative I'm speaking of is very much embedded in religious doctrine. And we'll leave it at that. But it is definitely difficult to talk to him about things that are different like this that I talk about, which is okay. You know, everybody has their thoughts and their ideas and their beliefs, and that's okay. It doesn't bother me. So I haven't had a lot of conversation with him, probably because of that. But once again, that is okay. Everybody is doing their own thing. Nothing wrong with that. In the conversation I had with the person who told me, they told me that the only reason that this particular person probably has not taken his own life is because they believe they are going to go to hell if they do that. Now, I could never say one way or the other. That was also talked about in my podcast about suicide. I don't know. I'm not even going to pretend to know. In my belief system, that is not something that would happen, because I do believe that we're here for lessons, and that if we check ourselves out early, then we just got to come back and do it again. Just my ideas, my experience, through my own experience and through those of clients. But the message that was coming through very, very loud and clear, what if we are already living in hell? What if this reality, this earth, or whatever it is that we experience as a world, as a reality, is actually what would be considered hell? Some of you guys would probably argue with me, but that's okay. That's why we are different people, and it's okay we have differences of opinion. But hear me out. I'm not saying it is. It's just something that was given to me as a message, and I want to try to break it down. And I guess I'm going to be working this out as we talk, or I talk. But if you look at what most definitions of hell or a place of eternal damnation might be, and it's not just in the Christian texts or Bible or anything like that. I'm sure it's in others. I know just enough about others to be a bit dangerous, so I won't really talk about that. But if you look at some ideas of religious philosophers that have broken that idea of hell down, I have seen it talked about in many different ways. And one way that made more sense to me was that hell is really just a separation from God. Now, that may sound really very nominal to a lot of people, but hear me out here. If separation from God is supposed to be the hell, then that might fit the definition of being here in this human body and not in the presence of God. Right? Just thinking, just pondering this stuff, trying to work it out. But hell also, to be honest, I don't think it's explicitly broken down in a lot of these texts. When I work with clients and when I do my own journeys, and I've talked about this before too, I have not actually had anybody go to quote-unquote hell or the place of damnation, fire and brimstone, or any of that. Primarily what I see through hypnosis and past life regressions or forward regressions, however it goes, or whatever aspect we're looking at with a client, or once again through my own journeys, what I find is people leave this meat suit, this body, their soul, their spirit, their energy goes to a place we'll call the spiritual realm, for lack of a better word. And I have described this many times, even though it's difficult to describe. But it's like being aware that you exist, but it's really, by definition of existence, very hard to put that definition on yourself or your energy in this space. Very difficult place to describe. It's like being just a light body, no human emotions, no anger, no happiness, no frustration, no nothing. It's almost just like a state of being, and in a place that, especially in the presence of the source, some might call it God, that's probably the right term for most people. It is like the most overwhelming feeling of love that anybody that's been there, or at least in their consciousness has been there, it's like they've never experienced that ever at all. And so it is very, very difficult for people when they do go to these places, either through hypnosis or other practices, or during near-death experiences. It is very difficult for people to want to come back. So let's face it, if we are a soul, we're just going to use that for argument's sake, right, for this podcast. If we are a soul, a light body, energy that exists being splintered off from the source or God, and we are charged with having experiences through multiple types of lives on different planets or different places or dimensions or whatever really is out there, or whatever this is. Can you imagine going from that lightness, that wonderful feeling of love, not bound by human emotions, not bound by any kind of paradigm, completely free in many ways, and coming into this place we call Earth, this place we call home, this reality. If you think about it that way, this could very well be the definition of hell. Separated from the love of God, separated from God, and living in torment. I say torment. I think life is wonderful. It is very pleasurable to be alive. I love being alive. I love this experience. But let's just face it. We are bound by many heavy and laborious programs. We are bound by these emotions that just rule our lives. And you can learn to control them, and you can learn to master them, yes. But it's like we're part of this, I don't know, really thick energy soup living here. And if you have been here many times as a soul, it's probably not as bad. But can you imagine coming to a place like this for the first time ever from being a light energy body or entity? I guess it's not a body. I can't really imagine much better definition of what going through hell might be. It's not the exact story of what is described as hell in most religious texts. I get that. I want you to kind of understand where I'm going with this paradigm. Why would I be given this message? I mean, we can even go further than that. I mean, it's like if you have access to all there is, time, past, present, future, the wonderful love and the presence of the source, and just absolutely infinite existence, and you come in here in a locked pattern, in a body that's going to decay, in a body that is promised to die off, in a body that is just completely burdened and shackled into a cage in a lot of ways, because we are trying to operate and exist and have this experience through five senses. Five senses it is quite incredible what our brain or our mind or whatever is in our skull can actually do with these five senses. But if you think about it, we could literally be experiencing this reality that we think is real, physical, and solid simply by picking up on electrical impulses crackling through neurons in a chemical process. And there may not be anything out here. It may be almost like, in a lot of ways, like the movie, I can't think of the name, where they put people in a prison that feels like it's 1,000 years. They put them in some type of conscious state that makes them feel like they're entrapped in a particular scenario or life or suffering for 1,000 years, even though in that reality of their world it might simply be 8 hours. That is crazy to think about. But maybe that might be what's going on. Maybe we are being banished or punished to this type of laborious, dense life, and until we learn our lesson, or until we serve so many lives because of what we may have done, or for whatever reason we are being banished or punished, perhaps that is what hell is. Perhaps that is why we keep having life after life after life after life, and we chalk it up to karma. We chalk it up to, well, we didn't learn our lesson. We didn't come here and do what we were supposed to do. Even more treacherous part about all that, if that's really what's going on, I can't say that's true. This is just me talking. These are my ideas based on having been up most of the night with these messages that were coming in. Perhaps this is something that is really hell. That sounds pretty intense, right? Because, I mean, if you take a moment and you look around this world, and I get it, we're more connected. We are more connected than ever, and we know about things. We can see more trauma and drama and bad things instantly at the touch of a finger. All you got to do is pull your phone out, and you can see and experience anything around the world. Whether that's real or not, who knows? But you can now be more connected. But the world is, I'll just say it, going to hell. I mean, if you look at all the wars and the things that are going on now with the new administration and the pushbacks and the hate and the anger and all these things that are going on, mass killings, wildfires, floods, horrible weather, famine. I mean, it's just amazingly bad. I guess it's the best way I can put that. And I'm sure it has always been that way. I'm sure it is no different now than it was before. We're just more sophisticated, and I think the pain or the hell of this reality is much easier to inflict than it used to be. And let's just face it, outside of the physical problems, the real wars, the real problems, the real hunger, the real financial poverty, all of that, it is so easy nowadays to take social media and the Internet of Things and all these ideas where we're so tapped in and connected and just mentally torment people. It is crazy. They are programming us. They are keeping us even more locked into the prison we're already in. The five senses, in a lot of ways, is quite an imprisonment, because it is just astronomically small, the experiences we can have through these five senses, compared, at least compared to what science thinks they know, that is actually out there to experience. My understanding is that the visible light that we can process is only about 1% of all the light spectrum there is in this universe or this place we live in. That's crazy. I mean, because the experiences we get just through 1% is astronomical. It's like having a burlap sack on your head with a few small holes poked in it, say 5 for each sense, and trying to experience your day through these little bitty holes. You know there's way more out there. You know there's way more to experience, but you simply can't experience it because you are very limited. We are coming from this, perhaps an angelic being, an energy, an entity, a light body, another type of being. I don't know. We're coming from somewhere to be here. We didn't just pop in out of nowhere by accident. 400 trillion to 1 are the chances of us being born. So we were put here for a very specific reason, or reasons. And perhaps, once again, it is to have an experience of hell. Wouldn't it be something if we were to wake up one day after we died? Maybe when we die we do wake up. And we find out that it was all just some simple technology-driven hell that we were put through. And we were paying some penance. I mean, if you look at The Matrix, for example. I mean, Neo was taken out of that huge expanse of pods that they were keeping human beings in. And they were running consciousness programs to keep them alive to do what? Use them as a battery. I'm not saying that's what we're doing. But if we're putting those ideas out there in movies, it's pretty evident that what they're showing us in movies is what they're trying to do to show us the truth. Well, perhaps maybe we are one of them human beings sitting in a pod somewhere being the battery for some civilization or AI or whatever. I hope not. I really hope that this life is actually more meaningful than I am making it out to be here. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer or be dismal. I'm just trying to expound on the ideas of the things that I got last night in the downloads, is I guess the best word to put it, streaming information from the other side, and trying to make sense of it. I don't know if I am making any sense. But why would we want to take the early exit in life, take our own life, and cut short the process that we are here to do or to be? Because we're going to die anyway. In a lot of ways, it's programmed into something. Whether we are in a programmed type of hell or a programmed type of karma or something of the sort, if we were to check out early, well, that might just put us right back into the program. And maybe that's what's going on. I don't know. However, based on all this rambling that I have been doing and the messages that I got last night, I can tell you it is motivating me like no business to become the best human being I can be, to be as fruitful and compassionate and loving and helpful as I can, to gain as much knowledge and wisdom as I can throughout this life, to really become what I am supposed to be or do while I'm here. And if this is some sort of penance or karma or sentence, then I am going to make good on it. Now, I know I'm sounding like a crazy man, but I'm sure many other people have talked about these things, and I'm sure many other philosophers have thought some of the same things. I remember being in philosophy class. I thought philosophy was going to be a lot simpler than it was. It wasn't. There was a lot of philosophers from older times in our history that really talked a lot about these things. Perhaps they weren't talking from the idea of technology as I am, because we are now in a technological age. However, I think the ideas are the same. I don't think these are new. I think they've always been around. I just can't imagine that any of the things that came through last night or what I'm talking about have not been discussed before. We live in a time when it's okay to be different, to say things like this. I'm just speaking my mind and working things out loud behind this mic and to try to convey what I think the message was that I got. Now, when we get messages, they are not always literal. And I've probably spoken about this many times too. Many of the messages we get are symbolic in nature, are more ideas. In other words, there's different ways of interpreting them. It may be that this was designed simply for me to go, maybe I really need to step up my game and I really need to really get serious and be all in. Because being all in is that's a whole different ballgame. Being all in is 100%. And most of us have never done anything 100%. It is really, really difficult to actually reach 100%. That's why when you hear these motivational speakers talking about being 120%, 140% in, I'm like, that's physically impossible. I get the idea of what they're trying to say. This could very well be a message for me and maybe perhaps you guys out there that it is really time to be serious about life, why we are here, and put some urgency behind the time we have, because I do believe we're here for a purpose. I do believe we're here for a reason or reasons. And if we get those done, perhaps we can get out of this cycle. If there really is a circle of karma, a circle of lives and things and lessons that we need to learn, otherwise we stay on this hamster wheel, then hey, I'd like to get off. I love life. I'm not going to ever check out early. I don't necessarily think that returning here over and over without my memory, going through probably some of the same lessons I've always been going through, sounds like a grand idea. I would really actually love to remember everything about this life and every life that I may have lived or any life that I may live. I think I've ranted enough. But I just wanted to kind of convey a few things, obviously, in summary, that everything that really comes about in your life is not necessarily coincidence. There's a lot of synchronicity, a lot of connections, a lot of breadcrumbs that we probably should follow. And in those breadcrumbs, there should be a lesson for you and for me and for everybody. And you don't necessarily have to share them like I'm out here doing. That's okay. But I do believe if we pay attention and we listen, and in my case last night I was forced to listen because they wouldn't let me sleep. I say they. I wasn't able to sleep. Then you must do something with that. You must really do something with that. Because I'd really like to sleep tonight. As I'm telling you, I'm tired. I really am tired. And I believe that we're going to be pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed until we get the message and we really pay attention, follow the breadcrumbs, follow the trail, follow the instructions, analyze it, break it down, ask more questions, get some guidance, and do something with it. I encourage you guys to go to my website at lifebymazak.com, lifebymazak.com. And when I work with people, just like the client learns many things and helps get started on a new path perhaps, I learn things along the way just the same. So when you work with people, especially as many years as I have, you really gather a lot of moss, like that rock rolling down the hill, gathers more and more moss as it goes. You capture great lessons, great ideas, you learn things from other people. As you're helping others, you will always learn more about yourself. So it doesn't matter what you think you don't have to offer out there. Always offer help. You have to take care of yourself. Don't give all of yourself away, but help others. And in helping others, you will help yourself. So I look forward to hearing from you. You will hear from me lots and lots of times. I love to share my ideas. Stay strong and live your life.